what question and that why question, where question is a good idea too. Some of us may have in mind big projects, huge projects. Maybe we're thinking about designing a meditation area or a prayer garden at a retreat center, at a church or a synagogue or a temple. Maybe it's in our backyard. We don't have a backyard. My wife and I moved into a townhome about 15 years ago. We have a courtyard that's about 14 feet wide and stretches the entire length of the house. So that's our backyard. That's where we have focused on designing an area for this. And some of you may have access to a natural area that you can get to easily. Every once in a while, I go down to Lick Creek Park, and it is an absolutely wonderful area to kind of walk and center your thoughts. Here's some examples of a few retreat centers. The first one, obviously, the focal point of this meditation area is water. And it takes either natural water or a tank you might have available. And all it might take is a couple of lawn chairs. This other retreat center is really a Buddhist retreat center. It's a picture from Colorado, excuse me, not Colorado, from Kansas, that is centered on walking paths and certain sitting areas throughout there. Here are a couple from churches, labyrinths. Interesting, the one on the right made of natural stone they found in the area, and a tree growing in the middle, a place to walk, stop, meditate, walk, stop, meditate. Backyard areas. One of these is from Indiana, one from East Texas. Simple seating area underneath the trees, very quiet, secluded place. And these two are from homes, and both of them at kind of unusual areas. The one on the left is an older home that has been remodeled, and this used to be a hallway. They put a wall in the end of it and designed a meditation area in that old hallway. The other one is under a staircase in a home here in Bryan College Station. Kind of an unused area tucked away, but very, very useful for a meditation area. And some of you might choose someplace in nature. That magnificent tree on the right can't do anything but inspire you, I think. So then you ask the question, well, how and when am I going to use it? And you think, well, I'm going to use it all the time. But I think we need to be a little more specific about it than that and ask the question, really, when? Am I going to use it in the morning? Nah, probably not. It's too much of a rush before I go to work. Maybe I'll use it in the afternoon. Well, what time in the afternoon? And questions like that, whether if I'm going to use it in the morning, will it be 7 o'clock or will it be at 9 o'clock? If I'm going to use it in the afternoon, will it be 6 o'clock or will it be 8 o'clock in the evening, are really important here in Texas because of sun and heat, especially in the summertime. So deciding on those kinds of things ahead of time are really going to be important. What about the design? What do I want there? Will there be seating? Is there going to be a focal point so that I can really focus my attention on something? What kind of features do I like? Do I like water, plants? Do I like stone? Should it have lighting? Those are all questions that we can ask about this area. And usually when we do this with a larger group, frankly, this is only the 6th time I've done this. And generally it's a workshop kind of setting. So I'll give people a worksheet like this with just 3 headings or 4 headings on it, and asking them to think about items that they would like in their meditation area. And this example here thinks about an outside area. Do you like stones? Could we get in a big rock as a focal point? Some person said, well, I have those glass gazing balls in the front yard, and the neighbors are always kidding me about those, but I love them. And she said, maybe I could move those into my meditation area. And you've seen those reflective balls are about basketball size that are sitting up on a pedestal. Well, what describes those things? What are you trying to get at? A rock, when we think of something that is so solid, and once it's plopped into place, depending on what size it is, we're not going to be able to move it. So it kind of brings to mind strength and security. A glass gazing ball, it's bright and shiny. Maybe it'll distract us from what's worrying about us. It's kind of a happy thing to look at. Fragrance might be important. Some of you will think I'm absolutely nuts, but right outside the back door, going into our patio, I've created a little herb garden for Aaron. And one of the plants we always keep out there is rosemary. And almost every morning I go out and pet my rosemary, just so I can smell that wonderful pine smell. And that will keep me happy for most of the morning. It's not like night being in a fine pine forest, but it sure is good. Touch is something, and aroma, smell is something that comes from that. What do you gain from that? What kind of emotions come from that? Colors, what kind of colors do you like? One person suggested yellow. It makes her happy. My wife doesn't like yellow at all, so we have no yellow in our landscaping out on the patio. We have pinks and blues and reds and whites and lots of other colors, but no yellow. I happen to like yellow, so out in the alleyway outside our back gate, I have some Esperanza growing in huge pots there. And that makes me happy. But if you design a workshop, design a worksheet like this for yourself, you can think about items that you might like in that environment, and think about whether you're going to try to design it out in a natural area, in your backyard, in your patio, or maybe even inside your house. And sometimes a house makes sense, especially thinking about summertime here in Texas. So that's just a helpful worksheet, and you can make one of those really easily at home. When should I do this? Start now, because really this is going to be a never-ending job. You can dream about it, you can look around and do your research. You can have a pile of magazines. It's okay to tear pictures out of them. I like that. That's something maybe I should have. All you really need is one of those big brown expandable folders, or maybe some of those clear plastic pockets. Stick some articles in, stick in some of the pictures, try it out, experiment, plan it, sketch it. I'm going to show you a sketch in just a minute that was kind of built around what somebody did. And then finally construct it. But then I guarantee that you will decide to change it after you have finished it, because it won't be exactly what you want. You're going to have to experience it before you really find what you really want. So a quote there that I thought was kind of appropriate, that being unsure of this situation, this thing we're designing, is not a bad thing. Instead, it opens us up to being more observant. um, and guides our creative flow. What do you need if you want to start sketching and thinking? I like graph paper because you know if your area is going to be about, maybe 10 feet by 12 feet, you can get some half-inch graph paper and you can begin plotting things out. You know how they'll fit. You know which plants might take up how much space, how large my seating is going to be. If you already have a bench, you can measure and plot it on that graph paper. Colored pencils are helpful to illustrate different kinds of planting. And a good eraser is probably the most necessary a tool that you'll use because you're going to change this at least a dozen times, I think, as you're working on it. And here's something that's kind of modeled after a plan that someone put together in a workshop on this I did 2 years ago. And the person was very thoughtful about this. They were thinking about where the sun rose in the morning and that they were going to use this area in the morning. So they have the sun over there coming up out of the east on the left side of the diagram, and showed how those sun's rays would show into the area. Down to the right side of the diagram, there were some plantings, and that big cross there identifies the main focal point. Seating areas are identified in blue. Other plantings, beds, are identified in that kind of brown paper, brown, orangish, whatever it is, color over there to the left side. And then there were some screening shrubs, high shrubs around the outside to the left and to the right and straight ahead. As the person began to develop this, they decided there were some problems they didn't anticipate. Number one, they had kind of planned this to use it early in the morning, and they found out after a while of trying to do that, it was just too busy. They couldn't accomplish that. They had to get kids off to school, and they had to get themselves ready and get to work in the morning. So they hardly ever used it in the morning, and instead they used it in the evening. And guess where that sun was? It now was over on the right side of the diagram, on the west, shining directly into their face, which especially in an East Texas summer wasn't fun. The second thing was they decided there was just too much clutter in the space. They had overplanned. And so some of these things were never built, never executed. And so that's why I say, it probably is going to be a never ending job. One thing I would recommend is if you're planning an outside area, whether on the patio, in your backyard, think about plant selection very carefully. And I just absolutely love Texas superstars. I think most of you know about those stars. They go through a strict review and examination by AgriLife Research Services and AgriLife Extension Service. And the thing about that is when they're testing these plants, they do it at several different sites across the state. Minimal soil preparation. In other words, they don't do lots of supplementation to the soil. Minimum supplemental water to keep the plants going, and absolutely no pesticides, which means when you get the plant, you're going to take care of it. This plant will think it's in heaven when it comes to your home because you're going to use soil amendments. You're probably going to water it more. And you're probably going to be out there and pick those little bugs off as they begin to appear. Or squirt them off with water or use pesticide every once in a while. So they are just going to be great. The thing we've got to avoid on this is, oh, geez, I just love this plant that I saw at Lowe's the other day. I'm going to use it to So as a kind of a solid planting along the left side of my meditation area here. Um, and then come to find out that that's a plant that's perfectly suited for 300 miles north of us, and is going to survive 2 or 3 years here in our part of the state. And then we'll have to be looking for something else. Also, think about earth kind landscaping principles as you design your meditation area, water conservation, reducing pesticides and fertilizer use, energy conservation, and reduction of waste entering the landfills. I have one bed on the patio that I decided 6 years ago to not use fertilizer on at all anymore. And instead, I've been using a lot of compost and a lot of mulch in that bed. And believe it or not, the plants in that bed look better than any other plants on the patio. Soil texture is really, really deep. I spend a little more time pulling weeds in there, but not much more. Because I really do believe in energy conservation, and that's my energy. I don't want to spend a lot of energy out there pulling weeds, especially in the summertime. If we think about those principles, and it's easy to learn about them through AgriLife Extension Service, we can think about those as we design our areas. There are a lot of ideas about backyard design that you might like. This one comes out of a book by Grant and Holmes, and I think I have it referenced at the end so that you can take a look at that. There are some good Texas plants shown in that particular design there, and it's a wonderful design. But I'd also like to say something about that. My sister-in-law, who lives in Tuscaloosa, saw that design in the book that I shared with her about 10 years ago. And she said, that's exactly what I want in my backyard. And so it was constructed with a considerable amount of money in her backyard by a local landscape company. And it had a water fountain over on the front side of it also, besides all the plantings. And, you know, I think she used it probably exactly 3 times because she decided it was too far to walk all the way across the yard to get there. And she was getting to the point where she was a little bit unstable, having to use a cane. Also, she liked to use it in the morning. But after the sprinklers had come on at 5 o'clock, she had to walk through wet grass to get there. And it just didn't work out. Well, it's a beautiful element in the landscape of that home. But thinking about location, it just didn't work. So as you ask all of these questions, I would suggest that you experiment a lot and try things out. Take a couple of lawn chairs and put them in different places. Maybe simply take some container plants and scatter them around a little bit and see how this place really works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, modify it, change it, because meditation and prayer can occur anywhere and anytime and any place. It's up to us to determine where to carry that out. I have some references that I think are pretty good for those of you who might like to get a hold of some print material to use. And this session, I think, is being recorded. So those will be available. They're fairly recent, and I think all are still in print. And that book by Grant and Holmes, Home Landscaping in Texas, was the one with the last sketch I showed you there. I don't think I've used any sketches or illustrations out of any of the rest of them, but it's a good variety of things that that one might want to take a look at. The Bryant Library has a couple of these. The rest of them probably should be available through something like Amazon. So with that, I'd kind of like to quit talking for a few minutes and see what kinds of suggestions you might have, and what kinds of experiences you've had in terms of designing your own spaces at your home, because well, there's a lot to learn about this, and we can all learn from each other. So I invite you to unmute one by one as you have something to say, or to simply use the chat function.
I just wanted to add a water feature. We got a lovely pot out there that place about 30 miles from here that makes all the stone stuff. Braziers. Yeah. And it's not a dinosaur, it's a beautiful pot, and we've turned it into a water feature, and a couple trees surround it, and some agapanthus, and I can sit on my porch in a rocking swing, and I love to sit there. It just calms me down so much just to have that space to do that.
That's great, Jen. You know, we have a little fountain on our patio, and Erin loves to listen to it. And so I've suggested that in the workshops, and one of them had a woman in, she said, well, we got a fountain for our patio last year, and I just absolutely love it. But every time I turn it on, my husband has to go to the bathroom. You know, you might want to check sensitivity to the sound of water.
I have one. We don't have an actual fountain yet, but we have a bird bath. Yeah. So when we are even in our kitchen at the sink, we can look out and see all the different birds that are coming through. And everybody has their regular birds. And then you have your winter visitors and your spring visitors. And that's something that we really enjoy watching. And then we could go out on the back porch and sit and watch. They're not as many that come to the bird bath, but there are a number that will come if we're out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Renee. So how about some of you who have designed a meditation area or a prayer area and use it on a regular basis? What's been your experience there?
Your picture of the bench with the pergola over it has inspired me. We have an area, we have the bench in place, and we have some potted plants, and there's 6 trees. I counted them this morning. There's 6 trees around it, so it's real shady back there. And I wanted a pergola on the patio, and Jerry wouldn't let me do it because it would block his view of the squirrels and the birds. So back there in that corner over the bench would be a perfect place for a pergola. We already have honeysuckle back there. It's kind of a ground cover, so it would be easy to cover that with honeysuckle. So I'm inspired now.
Yeah. Well, we have modified our courtyard or patio just a bit over the last few years. We lost my stepdaughter, Erin's daughter, 3 years ago in November. She was 50 years old when she died, and that was a very difficult situation, and I think much more difficult for Erin than for myself. And so we did some work on our patio out there and put up a wind chime with some of the various chimes have engraved on them some characteristics of Celeste, our daughter. So Erin will spend some time out there, not every day, but maybe a couple of days a week, and has found that that is just a very restful, healing experience for her. The planting around there, I think, helps. The wind chime is certainly the focal point of that. And I began to realize just a little bit how important size, shape, location of that focal point really is, because it kind of, I think, helps the mind draw together and center a bit.
Well, I'll talk about one that I built as a really a rest area in my vegetable garden area. And it's under trees. It's kind of an oval shape with stone. I put down the cloth to keep weeds from coming up, and then I covered it with stones. And I have a bird bath and a cement bench. But a word of caution is that the plants around it kind of, over time, I've had it a number of years, have grown into it, kind of taking over the spot. So I had to move the bench out a little bit away from the aspidistra and other things.
Right. Okay. Yes. Things do change as they mature a little bit. Yeah. Kay, well, were you getting ready to say something? Kay, you're still muted.
Right. Unmute. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to say that I hadn't thought about one place. I have several benches around the garden, and I've discovered that the one I like the best, I guess that from experience, I've had some benches that I don't like where they are, but I have one that it's a rock. It's a kind of a square thing with rock on it, and then I have a swing set on that. And I really love it when in the winter, when the sun comes at certain times of the day, and I can go out and sit in the sun. And then during the summer, it's shady at different times. So I'll go out and sit in that one at that time. I never thought of putting more plants around. It already has some trees and things like that, but I'm interested in maybe a water feature, putting something else there. So but I do really like the platform thing, because it sets the swing set off. So it's just one little space for one or two people. So, and my dog, he gets up on the swing with me. So, so I'm learning a lot. Thank you so much for bringing up some of these ideas. I think they're great.
Good. I'd like to ask another question. A couple of people that I know have moved. Peggy, when you and Jack came down here, totally new location, totally new environment. Did you design any kind of space like this in your yard, patio, home?
Well, as I've been listening to you, I guess it wasn't so intentional. We bought a new home, so there was nothing. Well, there was the landscaping in the front, but there was really nothing in the back. So we extended the patio, and I was thinking, I can see the spaces that I love from my eating area in the kitchen. So we have this big expanse of windows that looks out into the backyard. And so I can see that all the time. And it just brings me such joy. So we did add a patio, and we added we added a circular garden at one corner, put up 3 crepe myrtle trees. They're like 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall. And underneath that, we have some stone mushrooms and a bird bath and some flowers. And that's kind of my area that I go sit outside, and we have a bench out there. And but the bench is up against the house. And yeah, and it was a whole new learning experience of how to garden in the Brazos Valley, you know, totally new system of plants and whatnot. So,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I actually, I look outside all the time. We do feed the birds as well. So we have birds and a bird feeder and squirrels that come. And then we put a bed across the back fence as well. So yeah, I get a lot of delight out of my garden, but I really didn't do it with an intention of having a meditation space. And as you're talking, I thought that's exactly what I have out there.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Gecka, you have recently moved and you have a real challenge on your hands.
Yes, I have. Well, I am a bit living now in a with a secluded. There's a wall around the house. It's very small, yard in the front and in the back, but there only in the back there are 2 trees. But for the rest, it's barren land. So I still have to gather ideas what I can plant here. I already saw a few plants and trees that we also have or in Texas. So yeah, a lot of investigation to do, visit of garden centers and see what is growing here. But I wrote down some ideas. I have a wind chime and I liked Kay's idea of a swing because I really like that too. And the birth bath, yeah. So all those things. So we are already starting to identify what kind of birds are visiting our yard. So hope we can stimulate that or encourage that many more to come. But thank you for all the ideas. But there's still a lot of work to do there. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing, and we all wish you luck
Thank you.
as you go forward. It'll be interesting to hear what happens. So,
Yes.
okay. Anyone else like to tell us a little bit about your experience? Barbara, you're looking like you have an idea. Would you like to share with us anything that?
Yeah, I was trying to get me unmuted. I'm sorry. Well, we moved here from San Antonio, and in our house in San Antonio, we had a large courtyard entry that was walled off from the front of the house, covered with a huge live oak that was 50 feet canopy. Excuse me. We had a fish pond that was there when we bought the house that had live koi in it and the water flowing all the time. We had a nice wood deck with some patio furniture. So I had the ultimate meditation place there. Now we're here. and I don't have anything formal like that, but what we do, we live on acreage. And so we've got the woods to walk in. We've got the pond that the birds and the wildlife come to. We've got some walking trails in different places where we kind of made ourselves some trails. So I don't have it formalized. I have a bench in my garden that we've added. But I mean, I did enjoy the formal one, but I also enjoy the freedom here just to explore the landscape. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I would like to, Sherry, let me say something, then I'll come right back to you. We had a friend who moved to a new house over near the main Bryan post office off William Joel Bryan in the East Bypass. She moved to a house on Memorial, and I guess that move occurred about 3 years ago. And she decided to establish a little meditation area out in her backyard, really beside the garage. She had about an 8-foot space between the fence and the garage part of the house. It was just a perfect area because it was enclosed on 3 sides. There was enough sun, enough shade. She hung some planters on the wooden fence, put a bench out there and a small table, and thought it would be absolutely perfect. But then her time to use it was about 7:30 in the morning. and she discovered something. And that is all kinds of cars and trucks use Memorial when they're cutting through down to 29th Street or up to William Joel Bryan. And it was just a very noisy, uncomfortable area. So it's still a pretty place in her yard, but she doesn't use it for that anymore and has since moved her space, private space, around to the other side of the house. So that's why I say be prepared for change, whether it's plants growing into your area or whether it's cars invading at certain times of the day or the sun shining in your eyes. It's okay to move. Okay, Sherry?
Just a couple of other ideas. I wouldn't call this a meditation space, but I lost a huge post oak tree a couple years ago. And when they cut it down, I had them cut some benches, logs that would work as benches, so flat sides. And I put 4 or 5 of them under a grouping of trees that my grandkids could sit on and have a private area for themselves, just to chit chat. And they like that. And then another idea, on a trip to Guatemala, I bought a hammock. And I love that as a meditation device because when I'm tired of gardening and too dirty to go in and sit in the furniture, I can just lie in the hammock and look at the sky, and it's very peaceful.
What a great idea. Just really good. Okay. Anybody else?
I was talking to Jim about this the other day, but I thought I'd share is that a lot of times in our hectic days, we sometimes forget about the stars. And so, I have different areas that I enjoy our property, but one is I just recently put a couple of rocking chairs right on our back sliding door, that's just all sun there. It's all open space. So at night, I try to take a few minutes to sit out and look at the stars because, we don't have as much light pollution as some. And, that's something that's always been important. And I get a lot of soulfulness out of that. So a place to look at, not just during the day or at a time, but also at night, I think is important for me.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I see Fran Giordino is on there. Fran and Rick have designed a nice area just outside their living room and kitchen door. Fran, do you want to talk about that at all? Maybe Fran is hiding. She's on mute up there. Okay. Anyone else that has tried something, whether it's worked or not?
Sorry, Jim, I think I was muted. Can you hear me now? No.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear
Well,
you.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think okay, all right. No, I was telling you the story of getting our fountain that's outside. I drove, sorry, my husband's trying to do something. We grow our herbs out there and it's really nice because it's right outside the door. And we have a willow that's out there that we're going to have to replace. And I'm trying to figure out what kind it is. I don't remember. But I should tell you the story of the fountain because we were in Houston and with the Houston Plant and Garden, and we're walking around and we see this fountain that we really like. But there's no price on it. Couldn't find it. So we went up to the lady and we said, we saw a fountain out there that we really liked, but it doesn't have a price on it. And she said, well, can you describe it or whatever? And we said, well, it's a lady with 2 jugs. And so, yeah, no. And you know, she does have a thing that goes over so you can see her breast, but she is holding two jugs. One's on her hip and one's on her shoulder. And, you know, neither one of us, we were totally clueless, and she gave us the funniest look. And we said, well, can we take a look? And then Rick realized, he said, do you know what we just asked her? I said, well, so we have our two jugged fountain out there. Yeah. But it works really well, and you can see the water flowing from the house, and you can hear it if you're out there, so it's really nice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Fran. All right. Anyone else want to add anything? Has anyone been inspired this morning?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
It's early enough to do something for summer right now. You know, I don't know what happens, but every time January comes around, I start looking at all the seed catalogs and all the plant catalogs, and I get so excited. And our son and his family just moved to a new home on 5 acres up outside of Boise, Idaho. So once a week, I send them recommendations about what they need to be doing up there. I think they're really getting tired of hearing from me. But it's just that time of year to get excited about gardening and about maybe creating your own special place to help get out of that monkey mind that might be bugging a lot of us right now. So, and with that, I think I'll turn things back to Ann and Renee. Thanks for being such good hosts. And thank you, Ann Gundy, for such a wonderful introduction this morning.
Thank you so
Jim.
much, Jim. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
So next month is supposed to be Randy Lemon from Houston. He has a garden line show. And as of right now, I don't know specifically what he's going to do. I think he really wants a lot of Q&A. So between now and then, any questions that you may have about anything gardening, because you know someone doing a show like that is on all the time and they've probably got an answer to anything. So you might start as we're inspired and thinking about all these things we want to do in our garden, when you come up with some questions, make sure to bring those along next month. And I really enjoyed our presentation because it inspires you to start thinking of different ways to use your garden, and also for us to slow down. Well, we do slow down, but get out there and have a special space to let us think and pray. Does anybody else have any announcements? Renee, would you like to? Is there anything you have? that you want to talk about?
No, not at this point. I really enjoyed Jim's presentation, and I'm inspired to do a little more around here.
Yeah. And this is the time of year to do that. It was so wonderful to see everyone. I guess it's been a little longer from the holidays, and I just want to tell y'all how much I enjoy being able to see you every month. It's really nice.
I just wanted to thank, I just wanted to thank you, Ann and Renee, for putting this all through during the pandemic, because I know it's a challenge, especially with, everything going on. So this was a nice meditation this morning.
Right.
Thank you.
I want to add to that too, because Ann is almost completely responsible for organizing this year. So she really gets all the appreciation, and especially from me. And I agree, I've missed everybody. It's so nice to be able to sit and talk about gardening with fellow gardeners. I just can't wait till we get back together.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that we have this, because at least we can see each other's faces and we know you're out there, and we can talk about, you know, what's going on in different people's lives. And so I just, it's a blessing for me. And I enjoy being able to serve the group. So we will see you. I'll be sending something out. Oh, hold on. I have recorded this, and I will have it put on the Texas A&M Women's YouTube channel.